Israel once again turned away from the Lord. They forgot his laws. They ignored his warnings. And so, as before, God allowed their enemies to rule over them. This time the Philistines were strong, ruthless, and cruel. For 40 long years, Israel lived in fear. Villages were silent. Altars were broken. Stones of worship lay scattered and forgotten. Hope seemed buried beneath dust and chains. For 40 long years, Israel lived under the shadow of their enemy. Not days, not months. A generation born into fear and raised under oppression. The Philistines were not like the enemies before them. They did not raid and leave. They stayed. They controlled the roads. They guarded the wells. They owned the blacksmiths. So Israel could not even sharpen a sword. Israel had hands, but no weapons. Voices, but no power. Fear became routine. Oppression became normal. And hope became dangerous. Children learned to stay quiet when soldiers passed. Men learned to bow their heads. Women learned to hide their tears. Not because they were weak, but because resistance meant death. They prayed, but heaven seemed silent. No prophet spoke. No judge rose, no miracle broke the darkness. Some began to wonder if God had abandoned them. Others feared something worse, that he was watching and waiting. The Philistines wanted Israel to see their strength, to hear it, to feel small beneath it. Their champions were enormous, trained from youth, fed with abundance, armed with iron. Each clash of metal was a reminder, you are conquered, you are powerless. Israel remembered the stories, Moses, Joshua, Deborah, Gideon. But those stories felt distant now, like legends from another world. This generation did not ask, "Where is the Lord?" They asked, "Who will survive tomorrow?" Yet while armies marched and nations trembled, God was working quietly, not in a palace, not in a camp, but in the house of an unknown man from the tribe of Dan. His name was Manoah, and his wife was barren. No cries of children filled this house. No laughter echoed in its walls. But emptiness has never stopped God. It has only invited him. Israel saw no deliverer. The Philistines feared no rebellion. Even the faithful had grown tired of hoping. But heaven had already chosen its weapon. Not an army, not a king, not a sword, a child. A child who would shake empires and warn generations. In a land crying for deliverance, God began his answer in silence. Manoah's wife had lived many years with unanswered prayers. She had watched other women cradle children while her arms remained empty. In Israel, barrenness was more than sorrow. It was shame whispered behind closed doors. Yet she did not curse God. She did not turn away. She waited. Then, without warning, the silence of heaven was shattered. Not by thunder, not by armies, but by the presence of the angel of the Lord.
You are barren and have borne no children, but you shall conceive and bear a son.
Hope returned in a single sentence, not as a suggestion, not as a possibility, as a decree.
No wine, no strong drink, no unclean thing shall touch you, for the child shall be a Nazirite to God from the womb. He shall begin to deliver Israel from the hand of the Philistines.
As suddenly as he appeared, the angel vanished, leaving behind trembling hands and a promise heavy with destiny. She told her husband everything, the light, the words, the command. Manoah believed, but belief did not quiet his fear. For the first time in many years, a man in Israel asked not for victory, but for wisdom.
O Lord, let the man of God come again. Teach us how to raise the boy.
God answered immediately, not because Manoah was powerful, but because God was precise.
All that I commanded her she must observe.
Stay, that we may prepare food for you.
I will not eat, but if you prepare a burnt offering, offer it to the Lord.
The promise remained. A child would be born, a vow would be tested, and Israel's deliverance would begin. Not with a battle, but with obedience. At the appointed time, the promise took flesh, not in a palace, not among priests or kings, but in a small house in Dan. A child was born to a woman once called barren. Every breath he took was a testimony that God still ruled Israel. They named him Samson, a name of fire, a name of power. But even the brightest sun casts the darkest shadow. The child grew, and from his earliest days, he was not like the others. His steps were heavy, his grip unnaturally strong, his gaze intense, as though something restless lived within him. And the Lord blessed him, not quietly, not gently. The blessing rested on him like a storm waiting to break. Neighbors whispered. Elders watched closely. They sensed it. This boy carried something dangerous. They remembered the angel's words. No razor, no wine, no compromise. But raising a child marked by heaven was heavier than they imagined. As Samson grew, so did his strength. Not learned, not trained. It came upon him, sudden and overwhelming. Then it began. The Spirit of the Lord stirred him, not with peace, but with agitation. A restlessness, a fire beneath the skin. Between Zorah and Eshtaol, the Spirit moved him, not toward comfort, not toward safety, toward confrontation, toward the enemy, toward destiny. Between the hills, a force from heaven stirred within him. The breath of God awakened inside his soul. It offered no shelter. It promised no calm, only collision, only opposition, only the road he could not escape. He had not yet struck a blow, but heaven had begun sharpening him. The Philistines did not know his name. Israel did not yet call him deliverer. But the war had already begun. Inside him, God had given him strength, but he had also given him freedom. And freedom is always a test. The question was never how strong Samson would become, but whether he would remain faithful to the vow that made him strong. The Spirit had stirred Samson, but Samson did not yet understand why. Instead of seeking God, he followed curiosity. Instead of resisting temptation, he walked toward it. Timnah was a Philistine town. Colorful, loud, alive, everything Israel was not. Then Samson saw a woman, not in prayer, not in battle, but in the crowd. In a single glance, desire planted its seed. Not love, not purpose, desire. God had chosen Samson to confront the Philistines, not to embrace them. But the heart is a battlefield even the strongest man cannot dominate alone. Samson turned back toward home, but his thoughts stayed behind. He did not ask for guidance. He demanded permission.
I have seen a woman in Timnah. Get her for me as my wife.
Is there no woman among our people, no daughter of Israel?
Get her for me. She's right in my eyes.
They spoke with wisdom, but wisdom cannot rule a stubborn heart. Right in his eyes, not in God's. On the way to Timnah, death rose to meet him. No weapon, no warning, only instinct and the Spirit of the Lord. The power came upon him, sudden and absolute. Muscle and bone yielded as though held by invisible hands. Samson tore the beast apart as one might tear a young goat, but he told no one. What Samson meant for pleasure, God would use for conflict. For the Lord was seeking an occasion against the Philistines. Even rebellion, when placed in God's hands, can become a weapon. Secrets are dangerous companions. What God had done through him, Samson hid, not out of humility, but indifference. But he told no one. The lion was dead, but desire was very much alive. Samson returned to the path he should have left behind, because the strongest chains are not forged of iron, but of wanting. The vow still held, the strength still flowed, but a crack had formed, and through it, destruction would enter. What began as desire was now sealed by celebration. Samson, set apart for God, walked openly into Philistine joy. Music drowned wisdom, laughter silenced warning, and the enemy welcomed him, not with suspicion, but with smiles. The feast lasted 7 days. 7 days of excess, 7 days of temptation. Samson did not drink wine, but he sat among those who did, and the line between obedience and compromise grew thin. They were not friends. They were guards disguised as guests. 30 strong men placed to watch him, study him, measure him. Strength attracts fear. Fear attracts traps. Samson loved games of wit, proof that power still thrilled him.
Let me tell you a riddle. Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet.
The words were truth, but also arrogance. He was playing with secrets meant to glorify God, not entertain enemies.
30 garments, from me to you. If you answer my riddle,
3 days passed, then 4, then 6. The riddle remained sealed, and frustration turned into threat.
You hate me. If you loved me, you would tell me.
What force could not extract, emotion attempted. Tears can be sharper than swords when the heart is unguarded.
I told no one, not even my parents.
Betrayal had entered his life, not by force, but by intimacy. The Philistines had learned something vital. They could not defeat Samson in battle, but they could reach him through the women he desired. The feast ended, the laughter died, and Samson's war with the Philistines had truly begun. Samson saw the jawbone of a donkey lying on the ground. He picked it up, and with it, he struck down 1,000 men. When the battle ended, Samson lifted his voice. After victory came weakness. Samson grew terribly thirsty. God answered. Water burst from the hollow place in the rock. For 20 years, Samson judged Israel, feared by enemies, misunderstood by his own people. Strong in body, yet still learning obedience of the heart. Ahead waited temptation, ahead waited betrayal, and soon a woman whose name would echo through history. The Philistines seized him. They put out his eyes. They bound him with bronze chains in their temple. Samson asked to rest his hands on the pillars. Then he prayed.
O Lord God, remember me. Strengthen me just once more. Let me die with the Philistines.
The temple fell. In his death, Samson defeated more enemies than in his life.